Hello, everyone.
Good day.
Hello,
Good
how
day,
are you?
JJ.
Good morning.
I think it's afternoon where they are, Bruce.
Yes,
It's
sorry about that.
it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon on our side. Yes.
Yes. It's 7 a.m. where we are.
7 a.m. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just wait for our participants to join.
Yeah.
I just want to check, Zandise, are you comfortable to play that video?
Yes, JJ. Let me just put in the video right now.
You know that when you press share, then you need to activate the there's a button there, a slide bar button that says include computer sound.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're not going to hear the sound.
All right.
But if you don't come right, then let me know. Hello, Fritz. Some familiar faces and names here. Duchenne. Hello, Ina.
Hi, JJ. Hi, everybody.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
You want to test that quickly? Oops, doesn't look too good.
Let me just play the one that's on my local drive.
Yeah. Isn't easy? There's no sound.
All right, JJ.
Did you when you selected share, did you also select include computer sound?
There was no pop-up on my side.
Okay, I'll share it then.
All right.
All right, so let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining, and welcome to this pitching session. It's the third one in a series where we would like the innovators that we made contact with over the last 2 years, mostly through the Leading Edge only platform, or LEO. We didn't actually get time to engage with each of them fully over the last year or so. And so we thought the best way to do this would be to host a pitching session, a Dragon's Den session, if you like. And it gives the innovators an opportunity to pitch their solutions or their companies to our mining industry. So a lot of people are not on this call, but it will be recorded, and then we'll make it available on our website so that they can access it. Now, the objective of doing this would be twofold. One could be that the mining companies decide to engage with yourselves directly after the session or what they've seen, or alternatively, we could engage further as part of our collaboration framework, where we talk about proof of concepts and things like that. So, but the idea for today is just to put it out there. These are the companies. This is what they do, and you have 20 minutes or so in which to bring the message across. So with that, I'd like to just, Sandise, if you can put the agenda up. We have 4 companies, I think, today that are going to be sharing. We have Luna, Raven. Raven, it's a video recording that we'll play. Elephant Adventures and Chord 3 Innovation Inc. So with that, I'd like to hand over to our first presentation, and that is Luna. So we have Herbert. Yes, Herbert, there you are. So the screen is yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. So I'll quickly share my presentation. Second. Can everyone see the first slide?
Yes.
Good. So just a brief introduction of myself. I'm Herbert Smeech. I work for Luna Innovations, which is based in Reno, Virginia. But the company itself is the largest fiber optic distributed sensing business internationally, with the most assets covered. I'm the global mining lead. I'm based in Pretoria in South Africa. So come from the mining industry locally, and looking after our mining solutions offering internationally. So to kick off with, I'm just going to see if the slide moves on 1 second. Okay, good. So the topic is really about a nervous system for your operation, for your mine. And think about a biological nervous system that converts sensory information into electrical and chemical signals. Fiber optics convert temperature and strain and acoustic signals into optical signals we can interpret and use those information to monitor, control, and alert to potential risks within the operation, and shut down and stop equipment, and alert, let's say, and create the amount of data that we can analyze and predict future events, issues. So fiber optic sensing enables mine-wide, plant-wide monitoring. A single fiber optic cable with multiple cores that they can run along various types of assets within the mine and the operation itself. Think of the fiber optic cable literally as every couple of meters thereof being a temperature sensor, a strain gauge, and a microphone. Then we can actively measure temperature, measure down to micro strain, and also measure acoustic or vibration performance of wherever that fiber optic is attached to. So I've broken this down into the brief of the presentation ultimately in how can we minimize harm or zero harm, downtime, and maximize production. So one of the applications that we've proven and we've deployed quite extensively within mining within South Africa already is condition monitoring or thermal monitoring throughout the entire conveyance infrastructure. With the fiber optic cable either side of the conveyor belt, we continually monitor the temperature profile along it. And if we pick up a hot object, a hot eyelid, or the conveyor belt rubbing against the structure, or a pulley slipping within the belt, we very quickly sense that thermal buildup, tripping the valve, preventing fires, and ultimately saving lives and adhering to what the Mine Health and Safety Act wants to achieve. Then taking it to the next step, and that is wrapping the fiber optic cable over plumber blocks, gearboxes, motors, and more actively monitoring their temperature profiles, for condition monitoring and reliability engineering. Ultimately alerting on the potential failure of a component, minimizing downtime, enabling preventative maintenance. And thirdly, let's say within the conveyor infrastructure, we ultimately can monitor the acoustical vibration performance all along the conveyor infrastructure, and we listen to the idler conditions and the rate and the stage of failure, such as rumbling, rattling, squeaking, squealing, knocking, and the severity thereof. And with each process run, we give out a report and saying, at these idler frames, you have potentially these failures at this stage of wear, enabling very efficient maintenance, reducing the resistance on the belt, and ultimately, increasing its performance and maximizing production. The same applying, let's say, within electrical infrastructure, where we've installed fiber optics throughout MCC panels, medium voltage switchgear, cable racks, cable tunnels, around transformers. And similar to the conveyor belts, we monitor the thermal energy throughout that asset. Again, if that drive is hotter than it should be, we ultimately alert to that. And if that condition continues, we trip it. Ultimately, again, preventing fires, leading to zero harm. The next phase of that is ultimately using acoustics and listening to the performance of the electrical asset in the same ranges as the partial discharge or corona noise. And ultimately, all electrical equipment has those signatures, but we now, if that suddenly increases within that same area, we can notify and someone can go and investigate. And with this, applying preventative maintenance and preventing costly breakdowns within equipment. To take this another step, we have self-learning or AI type software that continually works out the real-time thermal rating and depth of burial and the ampacity of conductors installed within the operation. So we take the current information, the ambient temperature information, and the conductor information, and we learn how that conductor operates under load conditions. And if that conductor starts failing, we can very early on see that it suddenly heats up a lot faster for the same amount of current draw, and we can alert to that long before that can create a potential cable failure. And again, maximizing unforeseen disruptions, maximize, let's say, production availability. The next part is ultimately using our strain systems. So we wrap the fiber and install it onto the hanging wall within a mine. And if there is sudden strata movement or fall of ground, we have an immediate alarm, and that ultimately alerting the miners in the environment through the mine site and communication system and the control room that there's been an incident. So rapid detection, rapid reaction. Taking it again another level up is continuously monitoring the strain and temperature profiles along the strata, and ultimately down to 1 centimeter of movement, we can immediately give an alarm on where we have, let's say, strain, change in strain, either due to tension or compression, within, let's say, that section of the mine, enabling rehabilitation, let's support it before it fails. Next would be up to that same solution, applying our acoustic systems that we can do microseismic and micro strain monitoring. And we monitor that changes in strain over a longer period of time, and also listen to the seismicity within the rock mass, the strata itself, and start building a profile and seeing where we potentially in the future, we'll have weakening strata environments that could lead to potential strata failure. Again, fiber optics, fire detection application. We have and I'm quite passionate about this application within mining as well, moving away from traditional environmental monitoring for fire detection to fiber optics. And fiber optics has been proven in tunnel fire detection applications internationally for decades. And the idea ultimately is to detect the exact location, speed, temperature, and direction of fires within an underground mine, enabling the proto teams or first responders to know exactly what would be the safe side or direction of the fire, in what direction is the hot gases moving, what's the temperature thereof, enabling much more educated response or data-driven response to an underground incident, and fully certified for that application. While we're monitoring the temperature continuously through the mine, we ultimately can take that data and assess what is the heat stress or the heat load within specific sections within the mining environment. By monitoring that, we can work out what is the heat stress our staff is exposed to. Do we have efficient or effective ventilation within that section of the mine, and ultimately reduce, let's say, heat stress related LTIs within the working sections. And again, adding acoustics to it, we can listen to the orifice noise as long as the ventilation flows through the mine, and we can actively map the velocity of the ventilation, and where we are losing ventilation due to open ventilation doors, blast curtains, wherever there is ventilation leaking or there is something obstructing the flow of ventilation through the mine, and actively monitor this and compare that to the ventilation modeling to ensure that we have effective and efficient and cost-effective ventilation in the underground mine. Emergency communication, I just put the slide in today. It's something I'm quite passionate about, let's say, within our underground mining environment. How can we actively ensure that there is no movement of people before we blast? How can we monitor the abandoned sections within the old Mandela sites within the mine for potentially zama-zamas or unauthorized entry within those areas? And then post-incident trapped miner location. If someone is, let's say, trapped behind a fall of ground or fire, if he bangs against the pipe or the ground or moves around and there's fiber optics in the environment, we can hear him effectively and also know exactly where that is. Pipeline leak detection. So let's say monitoring of tailings, ore and water infrastructure, underground and surface, doesn't matter, buried or not. We can, for zero harm sake or safety sake, monitor for third-party intrusions, digging, tapping, large machinery being in proximity to our asset, and before they start digging, we can already address that event. And the same, let's say, in an underground mine environment, if we have a major water pipeline leaking, we can very quickly flood a section within the mine. So very early, let's say, detection of intrusion and leaks. So just as a continuation of the previous slide, again, active leak detection at the moment of failure, let's say within that pipe, allowing us to shut down the supply, minimize the environmental impact, and make it, and have a much smaller mess to deal with. And out of a production maximization, it's the real-time tracking of our pipe inspection gauges, PIGs, within ore and slurry, let's say slurry type pipelines, typically within these dirty pipes, we have buildup of material and the pipe inspection gauges get stuck. So this, we can continually track the movement of the pipe inspection gauge And if it does get stuck, we know exactly where it's stuck, and it enables us a much quicker removal thereof, maximizing the uptime of that pipeline. Tailings and high walls. So again, most basic system, fiber break, we embed the fiber in multiple runs on the surface of a tailings dam or levee or a high wall. If we have a slip or a dam failure, we have a sudden strain event, and we can create an alarm very early on. In addition to that, we can monitor the strain and temperature profile all along that fiber optic cable, and we know where we have erosion, ground movement, as well as potential seepage through the dam wall. And then secondly, using microseismic monitoring, we can effectively look inside the dam wall and see if there's early stages of solid liquefaction happening, potentials of erosion within the dam wall, alternatively, and we can alert to that and effectively enable practical management of our tailings storage facilities. Another application, let's say rail part security and similar technology using distributed acoustic sensing along linear assets such as power cables and rails, infrastructure and surface. We can immediately alert to third-party intrusion or potential cable theft. As with the hard tailings, if there's any rock falls or landslides, we can alert to that. We can also, and this is more with, let's say, underground rail infrastructure, we can track anomalies such as wheel flats, rail breaks, where we have rail infrastructure degrading, and very quickly alerting to the location thereof, enabling very quick corrective maintenance and asset health. And also by most specifically underground rail infrastructure, the real-time tracking of our loco or rail infrastructure, ensuring that we know where our equipment is and maximize the optimization and the production availability thereof in the mine. A similar application within traffic monitoring, again using fiber optics through our underground mine for various applications. And while it's there, we're listening, and we can ultimately track heavy machinery. We know where they're moving. We can identify them. We can work out the average speed, where we have congestion, our queuing times, traffic count, flow rate. Do we have too many machines in an area, or is there, are we continuously having congestion in a certain section within the mine, ultimately affecting our production, but more so creating a potential risk area. And the same ultimately lies on the open pit operations, where we embed the fiber optic cable, let's say, all along the roadway or travel ways, and we can, with one, identify unauthorized vehicles, light vehicles coming into that part of the mining operation. We can identify the large haul trucks, if they are full, empty. We can pick up road conditions and oscillation, let's say in deteriorating road conditions, ultimately maximizing production cycles. And this is a very brief presentation. Any questions?
Thanks, Herbert. Maybe just want to pop up the slide with your contact details again. And just leave it there so people can note it.
1 second.
It's not that we don't want to see you, but your slide might be more useful at this stage. And then we have some hands that are up. I saw earlier on, Nadia, your hand was up, and I see Dushen's hand is up, and Zandise as well. Right, so let's start with Nadia. Is your hand still up?
Apologies, I just got in and then I saw and then I realized my hand is up.
Okay, so it was a wave.
That's it.
Hello. Great. Thanks, Nadia. Dushen?
Thank you. Thanks, JJ, and thanks, Herbert. Really interesting, really good, nice presentation. I found some of the monitoring systems very, very interesting, especially the one on the one you're using for those pillars, those strain gauges. I've seen stuff like this before, but I'm not sure, I'm sure there's some, you're probably doing some measurements in, in different planes, and I'm just interested in the way that works. Some of the intricacies on how you actually monitor that. Do you line, every single pillar? And I've got a second question on the rail-bound equipment. I find that quite exciting, that monitoring system you've got there. But yeah, maybe we'll focus on the pillar stuff first. I'm not sure.
Good.
Yeah.
So what we do, we install the fiber in a zigzag pattern, let's say all along the hanging wall. And we run down to the pillar itself. Now think about the fiber as one very long strain gauge, which we can break down into practically 25 centimeter long pieces of strain gauges. So what happens is we shine obviously the lasers through the fiber optic cable, and if we ultimately put less force or more force onto that silica glass, it changes ultimately the reflection of the backscatter profile within that section. And we can effectively measure that change in backscatter profile and interpret that into microstrain. And we've got a resolution down to 2 microstrain, let's say, along the fiber optic cable. So, and with that, we can ultimately, if there's compression or it's pulling out or stretching or whatever the case is, within that zigzag profile, we can see that there's either in that section, there's either less or more strain.
Thank you for that. And you've seen this being quite effective in the rock burst scenario as well, or just
Yes.
Is it? Hey? So for rapid, and there's quite a good reaction time, I would think. And you've seen this?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's say similar, if it's strain on the hanging wall, or we're more measuring a dam wall or a tailings facility, we ultimately for that application we measured down to 10 kilohertz. So let's say up to 10 kilohertz sample rate. So let's say well under a second, we'll have an alert the moment that cable has got a high strain event.
Excellent. No, thank you for that. I'm also quite interested in the rail-bound equipment. I see you've got some monitoring there. We in the industry, we've had a lot of we've had some of our locos derail. Recently, there was quite a big incident with a loader derailing and a fatality happening as a result. I'm quite interested in that as well. I'm not sure. Maybe you can share a bit more information offline. I don't want to dominate the whole time on this call. Yeah.
So we've done a lot of, yes. So can send you quite a bit of white papers and application studies on rail equipment. We've done a lot of commercial rail infrastructure internationally, on similar events and how the condition, ultimately it's acoustic sensing. We're listening to the rail infrastructure. We're listening to the carriage wheels running over the rail, so we can hear the gaps, we can hear flat spots, and with that we can also determine exactly how many carriages are there, the speed it's moving, and if there is a change in the acoustic signature at a specific point along the rail, let's say there's deformation or ground movement, we will pick that up as well, and then give an alert saying something in this area. It's potentially an unclassified event, but if there's a deterioration of some sort. But I can share a lot of information with you on that.
Excellent. Have you installed any of these systems at any of our mines in South Africa, or is it predominantly in the States? Or
no, so ironically, we've done close to 400 kilometers of conveyor belts in Southern Africa, South Africa and neighboring countries in total on the conveyor applications. Tailings dam systems, Canada and Brazil, where we've done that. Let's say traffic rail monitoring very much in the more highway commercial environments. So, and then electrical pipeline, let's say internationally, we've done quite a bit of that. So I can offline, I'll take you through a reference list on sites we can chat about.
Thank you so much. No, excellent. I'll definitely be in touch with you. We're having a day of learning later on in the year as well. I'll probably want to look at also. Yeah, we'll discuss more on that offline. Thank you, JJ. Thanks, colleagues. Thanks, Herbert.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Dushen. And I think what might be of interest as well is I see my colleague is not on this call. He was on the previous one. Duncan, who handles fall of ground, because I think what was of interest to me was the seismic monitoring of the, you called it the roof, but the hanging wall. So yeah, would be of immense interest there as well to see how that works. Good. So if there aren't any more comments or questions for Herbert, then we will let him go. Thanks, Herbert. With that, we will then, I think.
Sorry, JJ.
Yes, Zandise.
I have just a comment or a compliment. With me, what resonated in this presentation was the ESG part, like the sensors that Luna has for preventing fires and zero harm, that actually resonated with me because it's actually big in the mining sector. And one other thing that he said was that they have like a physical security for preventing zamazama. So if we recall very well, there's a destruction that happened in Johannesburg, and it is believed that illegal mining is part of that phenomenon that occurred. So it's a compliment on my side.
Thank you, Zandise. I can share with you a recent article that's going to get published on ESG, fiber optic sensing supporting ESG goals, and how we can support, especially the environmental part of it. Let's say socially due to safety and security. And ultimately with all that data we pull together, enabling better reporting and better governance.
Super. I'd like to see that as well. So yeah, send it on to us and we will distribute it then as well. And then for our non-SA or South African colleagues, Zamazamas are illegal miners. So for those on the call that don't know that too. All right, thanks for that, Zandise. For our next slot, we have Raven. Just checking the agenda here. Yes, it's Raven, and it's a recording. So Raven couldn't attend in this time slot, so I'm going to just play their video for you. Hopefully I don't have any problems here with the system. Let's bring it up. There we go. Hopefully you can see that.
Me, my name is Paul Berkovic. I'm a co-founder.
I just want to check that everybody hear that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's continue.
And Chief Commercial Officer at Raven. And today I want to tell you how we are building real-time industrial applications to impact the mining industry. Raven is a software company. We work in the industrial IoT and Industry 4.0 space. We are exclusively focused on industrial sectors, and we specialize in the capture and processing of real-time data to produce custom configured products and solutions for efficiency, maintenance, and other industrial purposes. We exist because there's enormous and growing pressure on industrial businesses to improve the way they work. Whether the driver is to reduce operational costs or increase productivity, whether it's sustainability reporting or improvements around safety and compliance, the pressure is increasing to improve the way these businesses work. Now, this is pushing the market towards the need to use real-time data. Big data analysis is really looking at historical information. The next frontier is to conquer real-time data such that you can capture and process and make decisions using real-time data in real time. One of the problems in this space is the technical complexity required to capture data. We have a lot of different instrumentation, we have a lot of different assets and technologies already in place that make it very difficult to pull this data together. Then you think about the different use cases and opportunities you can attack using this technology, and it becomes quite complex. Normally, the best approach to solving the problem is to build custom software. And everyone is very nervous about building custom software because it's considered high risk, quite expensive, and it can take a long time to deliver. Well, we're here to tell you that that's not necessarily the case. It can be done cost effectively and with great success. Our mission is to deliver purpose-built real-time industrial applications that deliver meaningful business outcomes. Essentially, Raven can work in any industry with any use case using any data. And our job, using our technology and services, is to take all of this information and all of these requirements and to output meaningful applications using real-time data to show you the metrics and insights that you and your operational teams need to make better and smarter decisions in real time. We've done work in manufacturing, in mining, in energy and utilities, in agriculture, and in infrastructure management. So we're well versed on how to do this, and we're used to working with just about any data types. So we can take data in from real-time, real-world instrumentation like energy meters or GPS trackers or weather stations and so on. But very importantly, we can also integrate with pre-existing technology systems. So that might be your fleet management system. It could be an asset management system. It might be SAP, a data historian, a database, and so on. We're extremely flexible in where we get the data from and what we do with that data, such that we can present relevant interfaces and dashboards to the appropriate users. We've done this hundreds of times. So we've worked across many different industries, as I said. One of the interesting things about what we do is, although we're very broadly applicable across different industries, we end up building quite specific things, actually. We tend to work with subject matter experts to build very specific application interfaces that solve particular problems. There are many data-oriented software products available. However, we're here to fill the gap, to solve problems that haven't been solved before because it was too hard to get the data together, or because there was no specific interface that matched exactly what you need, and so on. So we do work across different industry spaces, but we also work on very specific application requirements. We're able to do this because of the technology we've built. So Raven is a technology framework. It's a toolkit that lets you rapidly and affordably configure very purpose-built solutions. So we have this enormously flexible ability to ingest data from anywhere, as I mentioned. We have the ability to transform that data. So we have a drag and drop workflow programming environment that you can see here in the screenshot below that lets us create logic and rules and calculations and aggregations and to detect thresholds and so on. We can build any logic and process data in any way necessary to meet the needs that you have. On top of that, we have a machine learning environment. We have a machine learning engine that drives our predictive analytics that allows us to do forecasts and anomaly detection and predictive maintenance and so on. We also have the incredibly flexible front-end interfaces, of course, that let us configure exactly what's needed for any particular use case or industry or customer. We're able to push data back out of the product, so we can implement control and automation very easily. We can trigger real-time alerts and notifications via email and SMS. We can also package up all of the information and send it out proactively in an email in a reporting format that suits the user. To show this in another way, you can see that we're ingesting data from a whole bunch of different sources, whether it's existing software or databases or instrumentation or assets. As long as it's a digitally connected asset, we can get that data in, and then we process that data through our custom configured workflows. It may or may not leverage a machine learning model, and then we visualize that information for the appropriate users. We can also push data back out, as I said, for different purposes if needed. The front end looks and feels different depending on the specific use case that we're building for. So we've done a lot of different work in different areas, and we're always coming up with new ways to display information. We have many pre-built visual widgets that lets us display information. As you can see, we can resize and reposition these widgets to make sure that a specific set of interfaces and dashboards are configured for your specific need. Although Raven is the company, we have a brand called Eiffel Mining. It's very specifically focused on the mining industry. Using Raven and the toolkit that I've just presented to you, we're able to address very specific problem spaces in the mining sector. This includes health and safety, environment and community, asset monitoring and maintenance, productivity and yield, energy and resource management, also sustainability, And also we have general analytics oversight for across the entire mine site if needed. The idea is that Raven can drop into any part of your organization, regardless of whether it's connecting to on real-time, real-world devices, or it's a back-end head office software system. We can bring in all the relevant information, process it as you needed, and present that information and interactivity and functionality to different users based on the specific needs that they have. So we can provide health and safety dashboards for the health and safety users, or for executives, or for operational teams, and so on. So it's very, very flexible. And we've done so. We've built very specific things in the mining space that allow you to look at the utilization of your mobile fleet, that allow you to monitor safety and threshold detection for production facilities, that allow you to do maintenance monitoring and predictive maintenance for assets and machinery, and so on. In fact, we've actually developed some very specific, ready-to-go, pre-built applications that are for the mining sector. So we have, for example, ESG Live, which is a sustainability-oriented reporting solution. If you're looking to capture energy and diesel and other information and calculate your greenhouse gas emissions and carbon emissions and identify opportunities for improving what you do and reducing your footprint, then ESG Live is a really good place to start. We also have elements in the safety area. So we've built what we call safety control. This is the ability to monitor your safety metrics in real time and create early notifications of any safety incidents that may occur. So this allows control and risk owners to consistently and continuously monitor the safety metrics and produce automatic notifications based on threshold breaches and other safety incidents that might occur. Today, I want to show you one we call iMine. So we've worked with a partner to produce a product that is specifically designed to look at mining fleets, load and haul, and to optimize the way they're loading their vehicles. So let me show you what that looks like. This solution has its own dedicated website. And basically what happens is we put in place 3D volume scanners in fixed locations on the mine site that analyze the payload of these vehicles. And we capture all of that data and create a really, really rich analytics dashboard, which can be updated in real time as the mine is in action, as the trucks are passing through the scanner, and present that back to you. So I'm going to show you very briefly kind of what that looks like. Here we're getting a whole bunch of load information across lots of different vehicle types and lots of different vehicles. And this is just for one particular site, but we can also aggregate the data up different levels and look at how it appears across the entire site or multiple different sites. So you can see here there's a lot of information in here, and we're able to compare the efficiency and load, whether it's overloaded or underloaded, whether we've got empty vehicles and so on by truck type. And we can see the different quantities around that. I'm not going to be able to go through every metric because there's more than 100 insights and charts on this in this solution, but you can see it's a very rich data set showing you continuous and comparative measures, even comparing the target weights and the target load volumes versus the actual load volumes broken up by truck vehicle type and so on, and on it goes. It's a very rich data set actually. Now we can also drill down and look at a specific truck type as well. So if we just want to look at a particular loader type or truck model, we can click through and drill down, and it gives us even more granular information. So here we can see a summary of the payloads. Just that. You can see, different, load volumes versus the particular unit numbers for each individual truck, and on it goes. We even get down to a place where it shows the physical load and balance of the loads and how that's impacting tires. So whether it's more heavily loaded to the right or the left, and what impact that has on the actual vehicle itself. If I scroll down a bit further, we can see how it's impacting the distribution of weight is impacting the different tires because it impacts wear and tear and degradation in different ways. So there's a really rich set of data that we're able to display. Okay, I'm just going to log out of this one and I'm going to log into an alternative solution, because I want to give you a sense of a broader, that's a very specific solution looking at looking at load and haul efficiency. We also have solutions looking at the overall analytics for a mining site. I talked about the utilization rates for a mobile fleet. So this is one such example where we are able to look at all sorts of data coming in from different places. Also, in this case, it's focused around mobile fleet for a mine site. We can look at daily productivity and the trending associated with the daily productivity, but we have other metrics we can look at as well. So let's take a look at the real-time location of fleets, whether they're in or out of a particular geographic location. We can raise alerts based on that. You know, we can look at the different metrics and issues that might arise around maintenance and performance. We're able to group data according to different models again, and identify any, you know, maintenance requirements by that particular model and the trending related to that, the causes of maintenance issues, and so on. So there's really clever stuff that we can do relating to the mining analytics. And we can get this data in specifically for vehicles, but also for any other assets and from any system as well. By the way, I can also drill down. If I wanted to look at very specific metrics for a particular vehicle, I can drill into that. And again, it will show me the data available for that particular vehicle or vehicle type. So hopefully you get the sense that, you know, we have the ability to capture data from anywhere, to process that data in the appropriate ways, and then to package up that information in a specific use case or product that meets the needs that you and your customers have around health and safety, environment, asset monitoring, production and efficiency, energy and resources, and general overview of analytics. Really appreciate your time. Again, my name's Paul Berkovic. I'm from Raven, and I hope that we have the opportunity to answer some questions. Thanks very much.
Great. That was interesting. Love the use of data to quite an extent across the entire value chain. So we don't have Paul on the call with us, but we will take questions. So note questions either in the chat box or you can raise them here, but we may not necessarily be able to give you an answer. Duchenne, I saw your hand.
Yeah, no, thanks, JJ. Yeah, I think I was just interested in the maintenance aspect of trackless mining machines and how you pull diagnostics from those machines. I was interested in you know, the sort of metrics that you get from those machines and how useful those have been in actual predictive maintenance.
Yeah. Okay, so we can note that, and then Zandise, and then we'll need to get back to Paul with a question. Nadia, you have a question? Comment?
Yes, please. Paul, very insightful presentation and crisply presented to us. Can I maybe just ask, in terms of the payload, I know you said you've got a Raven technology stack, but how do you obtain your payloads? Gantries, or how do you get it from the trucks?
So Nadia, Paul, that was a video recording.
Oh, it's a video recording. It's not live in it. All right. I'll
no,
send
they
through my
couldn't join us
questions.
live, but so we'll definitely note that and then take the question back to Paul. Yeah.
Right.
But interesting one, yeah. Definitely. Good. Right, so I don't see any other questions or comments. Let's move on then to our next presenter. It's a company called Elephant Ventures, and we have Art and Jonathan. Just want to check who's on the call with us. Am I still sharing?
You are, Vivek. How are you?
Good, thanks. Right, so it's over to you two. Who is that, Jonathan?
Yeah, I actually have a quick request. Some of our folks were planning to join about 45 minutes from now, and I think I can get them on the call a little bit earlier.
Okay.
But would it be possible to skip over us and circle back in a few minutes?
Yes, we can try that. If Bruce is happy to go there ahead then from Cord 3 Innovation.
Yes, we're happy to proceed.
Thanks so much for that.
Over to you then. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity to present. Let me just set up my screen for sharing. And maybe while I'm doing that, I'll let Jim McIntyre speak for a moment.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim McIntyre, the Vice President of Business Development for Cord3. And we look forward to the opportunity to present to you today what we think is a very unique architecture in data-centric security, focuses just on data. And we look for the opportunity. Most of our experience has been in the government military space, but the solution provides capability no matter what industry. And with that, Bruce, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Jim. Can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. As Jim has indicated, Cord3, we are a company that focuses on a company's or an organization's data. Information is changing these days. We are in a digital transformation period, much like a renaissance, I would put forward. And that's changing how organizations manage their information, how they view their information, and consume and use it for growth and direction and understanding how to run their businesses. With that, the byline that we're working with is the changing face of information management. We used to delineate our organizations through bricks and mortars. That helped us to understand where information was kept, how we process, how we work with that information. But those delineations, those markings are changing. Cloud accessing information from a variety of different sources outside the company is putting pressure and bringing new challenges to the organization. Data-centric security, we believe, will provide the precision for better management and better governance to meet the challenges of today. So every organization has been on an information management journey. Some of the organizations that you see on the screen here have been providing solutions to your world for a number of decades. Microsoft has, which is at the very top, has clearly been a leader, but at the very bottom, organizations like RSA have been part of the security and governance space for some time, and everything in between: security operations, endpoint, identity, network security, application security, all in aid of protecting and safeguarding your valuable assets, information, and providing the ability for governance. Core3, as I indicated, it works in an area called data-centric security. Data-centric security begins to look at the information discretely, apart from infrastructure, apart from applications, apart from the network itself, and allows a precision view and direction to be taken for an organization, and meeting some of the challenges that are present today, yet allowing interoperability and sharing of information to the right people at the right time, with the confidence that the information can be safeguarded. Clearly, some of the spaces that every organization works on is how to improve information management. Information management in terms of challenges. Timely, correct, and accessible information is an area that organizations struggle with. Where is that information? Who has access to it? In terms of solution and desired outcomes, the environment has never been more complex in terms of how to achieve those goals. Clearly, the technology is out there, but how do you put that together? Information technology that was developed in the 90s and refined through the 2000s needs to be refocused and restructured in order to meet the desired outcomes. Things like key management for our information systems is a challenge. Quantum is putting pressure on public key, which is a clear underpinning in the solutions that are being worked with today. We believe data-centric will provide the direction, and specifically the way that Core 3 provides and works with data-centric, which is unique, and we'll get into that in a little bit in a moment. So as you look at data-centric and you look at governance, everybody is looking for efficiencies. They're looking for smarter ways of applying ESG elements to the world that we are in. Everything has to be supported, and everything needs to be the assurances provided within the organizations that information is being treated properly. Governance is moving out quickly. The old world of paper, filing cabinets, and individuals who safeguard that information are rapidly disappearing, and new systems, new policies, new directions are required. And that digital transformation that we find ourselves in is putting pressure on the solutions that we have. Core 3 uses newer technology. The concept that we provide is one key to one asset for what we believe is clearly a better way of safeguarding information. The way that we separate information management and information technology allows the organization to rest easy that the administrators do not have access to the information, but at the same time allows them to do their job to provide maintenance and the life cycling of information technology systems. Deployment, obviously the world is very complex. Every organization has a multitude of systems. The concept of how do I deploy easy without changing, without upgrading, without disrupting. Core 3 takes the approach of an overlay, which assists for the adoption cycle. Concepts like burden to administrators, how sophisticated are these systems, the policies, the rules, how large of a burden is placed on the organization. What you'll find is that this system and the approach that we're taking for data-centric, we don't measure rules in the hundreds or even thousands. We measure rules for our system in the tens and the dozens. It's a coarse-grained approach, which greatly allows organizations the efficiency, but also allows them to have great outcomes. Every organization is embracing cloud. It's driving efficiency. It's providing new technology at a greater rate, but it comes with its own challenges. Organizations that do embrace cloud don't own the infrastructure. When you think of governance, when you think of safeguarding information, one of the fundamental rules that you have to work with is the concept of the person or the organization that controls the platforms, that control the infrastructure, ultimately controls your and safeguards your data, independent of the organization. Data-centric security provides a chance to relevel that field for organizations by allowing them to protect the information before it finds its way to the cloud, and then allows it to securely be shared appropriately in concert with the cloud, rather than solely rely on the cloud infrastructure and security measures. How does Core 3 achieve this posture? How does our technology work? One of the easiest ways of considering looking at this is to understand the typical way or typical flow of information. On the left-hand side, you see a workstation. On the right-hand side, you see data services. Most modern solutions will work with either the endpoint or they'll work with the data services to provide enhanced security and governance technologies. Core 3 has taken a different approach. We insert ourselves in the flow of information, and this is where the overlay perspective comes, because we don't put information or software at the endpoint or at the data services side. Rather, we're independent. We elevate your security posture, and by doing that, we improve your assurance. How do we actually achieve this? We achieve this by looking at the information as it moves. Our technology is stateless, has zero management, and it is separate from IT, as I indicated. Some of the services that we typically put in place to achieve this, and you should be, for the technology people, you should be familiar with some of these elements. Identity management, we use a labeling service, policy engine, we have an encryption service, we use symmetric keys, which is unique from public key. We do consume public key through identity management. That's a good technology, and its usage is continued. And obviously, trusted audit continues. We use blockchain technology for that space. As you break this apart, you'll see we work across 3 areas: policy-based access control, information protection, and finally, governance. Organizations at the highest level, especially within Canada, trust us to safeguard and to provide governance to their information. Information is the lifeblood of most organizations. It allows good decisions, and it provides advantages in no matter in the area and the world that each organization is germane to. This particular example is for the Canadian Special Forces. Safeguarding information, especially at the national level, is extremely important, and people's lives are depending on the safeguarding and the appropriate application of policy. We provide this customer success as an example of how we treat information, the direction and the choice that this organization exercised to our technology to safeguard and obviously provide them success in all the years that they work in.
Bruce, let me just add to that example. So the work we're doing with the CANSOFCOM is to do it in a coalition environment, obviously to share with other militaries, but it has an application in the commercial space as well, in the sense that if you're working in a joint venture and you need to share sensitive information with your partners, the way we design this architecture and the way we've set up the policy, you can do that on a project by project basis or consortium basis as you move forward. So I just wanted to emphasize that, as I mentioned earlier, it does have a commercial aspect as well as a military and government aspect. Back to you, Bruce.
No, thank you, Jim. Happy to take some questions now as they come up.
Thank you, Bruce. Also very interesting. Question from my side is, and the question is based on the fact that we recently did a study of security issues, cyber, and to some degree, physical, because we know that access management, things like that, also have a physical component to it. But in any event, we did the study and there doesn't seem to be a coherent standard or framework by which mining companies implement solutions like this. What is yours based on, if you're allowed to share that? And what would you suggest as an overarching standard framework / standard for mining?
The mining industry is not unlike every other industry. We've seen some great presentations on real-time information systems. That's exploding because everybody wishes to have better information. So from that point of view, you're not unlike every other organization. So governments, military, industrial organizations, they're all, I'm going to use the word drowning in information. The key, and I use the word digital transformation, and you use the word framework, how to get your hands around this space. Historically, what organizations have done is they've looked to technology to provide a point solution to make a problem go away. That approach won't work anymore. And you'll notice that we separate information technology from information management. Historically, you've been unable to do that because information technology and information management ran through the same plane, because the administrators controlled the systems, which actually controlled the information management, and separating those two elements has been almost impossible because they're entangled. The way that we've approached this, both for government and for military, is the way gives you the ability to separate those two planes. Now, back to your basic question of, okay, what is the framework? How do we approach this? How do we view this? The way that you need to look at this is your information and the flow of your information within the organization, your starting point. And as you look at, just like in the mining industry, aggregates, and it goes through a refinement to extract the value of that information to the benefit of the consumer. An organization has a volume of information now that they will begin to extract. They'll refine that information, and that finds its way like a pyramid up to the various management levels within the organization, each level providing a little bit more refinement and direction to the organization. When you consider that type of model, what an organization needs to do is consider where they want to insert safeguarding and policy. If you take an approach that I'm just going to solve the entire problem and safeguard every single piece of information, you will drown in an overwhelming space from a technology point of view, time and money. You simply will not have enough to solve that problem. But if you look at it from a value chain point of view, where's my most valuable information? Where and which pieces do I need to safeguard? Because if they find their way into the wrong hands, my industry, my organization is going to suffer. And this solution allows you to be pointy, and that's why we use the word precision about where you want to safeguard your information. And then you put yourself on a program as to how broad do I want to stretch out the data-centric principles for safeguarding. And you start at your most valuable, and then you work your way sort of backwards.
Fascinating. Great insights. Thank you, Bruce. Any questions, comments from the others? No, I think you've given them something to think about. Bruce, thank you very much. There's his contact details on the slide. Thank you, Jim, as well. Good. Our next, Jonathan, is your team ready now?
Yeah, I think we could swing it now. I have a few more folks on the call.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the flexibility, everyone. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share here. And give me a moment and let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, so just to remind everyone, Jonathan and his team are from Elephant Ventures, and they'll be presenting their company and solutions as well.
Okay, can everyone see?
Yeah, we're going on a game drive.
Great. Here we go. I'm Jonathan Cook. It's very nice to see everyone again on the call today. And I'm from a company called Elephant Ventures. We have been around for about 20 years now, and we focus on digital transformation and innovation. And particularly, I think what's unique about our process is we really try to meet folks where they are. We take all of the subject matter expertise that you and your team have, and we bring to bear processes around advancing innovation, around managing digital transformation, and really empowering your own teams with processes and with modern technology so that you can sustain those processes yourself even after we go away. One of the things that really inspires us when we work with clients is Jack Welch is a very famous leader and manager from General Electric in the US. And he has this quote, where the organizations that are the best and the fastest at learning and then translating that learning into action, those are the organizations that really thrive over long time scales. And so we try to embrace that. We're very much a learning culture ourselves. And for all of our client engagements, that's what we try to bring to the table. Again, we've been around for about 2 decades now, and we focus on innovation and transformation. And well, I'll go into a few case studies in a bit. Our team spent a bit of time looking at the RTIMS roadmap, and we tried to pick out a few places where we saw interesting overlap between our areas of expertise and the areas that kind of Mandela mining and the full set of organizations is looking to push on. So reasons that folks typically will give us a call and work with us. If they have a digital transformation that's already in flight, gaining transparency and understanding like how to manage like vast amounts of complexity across multiple disciplines is something that we excel in and partner with folks on frequently. We partner with a lot of folks who know their roadmap at a very high level, their innovation roadmap, their transformation roadmap, their technology roadmap, but need help on the execution side or an expert perspective along the way to help guide things. And we also have a pretty significant engineering team where we like to really kind of meet folks where they are, and we do a lot of co-development with clients so that we're there to provide support and coaching and best practices. But the real value is in having your team or your teams or your organization's teams kind of learn the processes and the patterns of dependable innovation and dependable transformation and be able to run with those themselves and perpetuate them. The last piece that we do a lot of work with our clients is on the data and analytics front. So typically organizations that have like very, very vast amounts of data, traditional big data as you might think of it, and they need to turn that into actionable insights for a variety of employees, customers, and stakeholders. One of our core processes that we have is called vertical takeoff. And this is a quote from a customer around how that process looks and feels from a client's perspective. The piece I want to highlight here for all of you is anytime that you're starting a new partnership or engagement, I'm sure all of you have gone through various versions of that. And sometimes it can take kind of 6 months to get off the ground or 9 months to get off the ground, or there's time kind of working through politics or engaging kind of different stakeholders across the organization. Our signature is we will do this vertical takeoff process. It's 3 to 5 weeks of very, very kind of carefully choreographed, kind of figure out all the stakeholders, map all the risks, get the roadmap and the architecture set, and get your teams actually sprinting and delivering value inside of 3 to 5 weeks. I would say keep that in the back of your mind as you look at some of the case studies that we'll talk through in a moment. All the ones that you're seeing here are all things where the teams really started sprinting in a matter of weeks. We try to put a premium on quickly delivering value for you and your teams. If you think of us as an organization, we focus everywhere from kind of product strategy and design thinking all the way through to rapid prototyping and agile development. That piece includes data and transformation as well. Another way to look at this and kind of think of who we are, and I guess I have the RTIMS roadmap in my head as I'm staring at this. It seems like there's a good amount of overlap on the data and engineering side, specifically around kind of data platform modernization and cloud solution architecture. The other areas that could be interesting are also around managing disruptive tech. So technologies that you expect will transform the mining industry and that you want to very quickly kind of low stakes prototyping, due diligence, risk assessment, and maybe even kind of get those out into the wild and test them in a low stakes environment with some of your end users. And the last piece on sort of on the transformation front on the lower right is agile teams and capability building. I talked about this a little bit before in terms of code development, and we also do formal enterprise agility coaching. So I'll talk about our team for a moment. We're globally distributed. We were founded by Art Scheckman, who came out of MIT Artificial Intelligence Lab about 20 years ago, and we have folks all over the world. We have offices primarily in the US, in Africa, in Kenya, in New Zealand, and we have an engineering team in the Philippines, and Aljif, our director of engineering, is joining us for the call today. The thing that we like to highlight there is really we have coverage across time zones, and we're very comfortable working with different cultures, different regions as well. So I want to move on to the things that really stood out to our team when we're looking at the RTIMS roadmap and the areas where Mandela Mining and the constituent organizations are looking to advance from a transformation, a product, and a technology perspective. So the pieces that really stood out to us were transformation support in general, key liaisons and collaboration. We're doing some interpretation here of what that means. But in terms of getting the right folks in the room from within your organizations and industry experts outside your organizations as well, and facilitating innovation workshops and design sprints, we have deep experience there. And then thinking about the data side, we have experience on the sensor to ODAP side, and then certainly the big data optimization and processing and analytics, especially kind of open data and data democratization. And I'll show you a few case studies there, and very interested to hear if there's anything that jumps out or seems interesting. Again, there are several areas of overlap, so hearing your feedback to help steer the conversation would be beneficial. The last piece that you see here in terms of operational system costs, much of the data platform work that we do with our clients is around kind of removing vendor lock-in from certain SaaS platforms and going to more bespoke solutions that leverage their existing clouds and infrastructures, and that are typically kind of much cheaper to maintain and where your subscription costs go away. There's a piece of that also really focuses on uptime and having data in the hands of your decision makers across the organization whenever they need it. If I pause here for 1 second, is there anything in particular that you'd like me to focus more or less on in the next few minutes?
Let's hear from the audience. I think for me personally, Jonathan, all of them, but if I had to pick two, I'd probably go with the first one and sensor to ODAP. Okay,
sounds good. I'm going to jump around here a little bit then, and then we'll see if we can cover some of the others as well. Okay, so on the digital transformation support front, we have an enterprise agility scorecard where we can come in and do an assessment and look at the different facets of enterprise agility and a transformed high-performing organization, and then craft like a very specific plan for areas for kind of processes, upskilling, new technology introduction. And I'll give you one example, one case study of this. Typically, clients will engage us when they're kind of already far along on their transformation journey, and there's a lack of transparency, or things don't quite seem to be moving as quickly as it feels like they could. And so we sort of come to label that as transformation rescue. So I'll show you a transformation rescue case study, but from the start, we also have experience. This particular one was in a different industry, but again, kind of very large scale client. They happen to be in real estate, so similar concepts of inventory that they're managing, And they had embarked on a digital transformation about 2 years before we met them. They had worked with a few different partners. They had hired for it. And for a culture that historically was not very technology driven, they really struggled with a lot of the processes and kind of the culture of a transformed organization. So I mentioned before that we really like to work in a co-development model where we come in and we're player coaches and we take ownership right alongside you and embed with your teams. And so in this case, working as partners with this organization, we were able to look at where their transformation was moving more slowly than they would have liked. We were able to address kind of lack of transparency and, hey, this new platform that their old partner was building has been kind of 90% done for the past 6 months. And what we do is just try to kind of gather all the facts. We're big believers in Agile, kind of get all of that information into a roadmap and a backlog and a risk register, and then transparently present that to all the stakeholders and say, here's where we're at. These are the portions of the platform that are built out and tested, QA'd, and have gone through UAT. These are the portions of the architecture that are implemented versus where there are some risks that need to be prioritized and de-risked sooner than later. And then once everyone sort of is on the same page and has the transparency of this shared public roadmap and architecture, then it's prioritizing and just getting back to Agile execution. In the case of this partner that we worked with, we were able to kind of turn the transformation around in about 12 months, launch a new platform for managing all their inventories. In this case, it was a customer facing platform. And we also did it on their preferred technology stack, since they were also transitioning clouds and moving away from legacy systems. Again, you'll notice that a lot of what you see here in terms of technologies is we like to use the technologies that you are most comfortable with. And we typically like to avoid things that include like vendor lock-in. We want you to have the flexibility. We want you to use the systems for sort of what you need and not pay for anything beyond that. I'm going to move to a couple other things for time here, and then I'll try to leave some time at the end for questions. On the data and analytics front, so maybe I'll just say a couple words about ODEP or sensor to ODEP for a moment. And then I'll show you a few different data analytics case studies as well. But for sensor to ODEP, like the key things that we try to drive are, you want to accelerate data insights. You want to implement modern data pipelines and get real-time or near real-time, and also support kind of batch processing for structured and unstructured data, and get all that data into your platform so that you can analyze it and then provide sort of real-time IoT recommendations back to your teams. These, if you think about kind of real-time monitoring and alerting in the mining industry, is extremely critical. We heard about it before as well. And then the other thing that is how you use all of that data. So having those data pipelines kind of feed into your AI and ML engines and analyses. And there's been some very, very cool stuff recently that you can do, including on the generative AI front, around near real-time AI to analyze that data and then feed it back to your teams. So I'll speak to just the sensor to ODEP piece at a high level, and then I want to share a couple data analytics case studies with you as well. One thing that we really believe in is democratized data and making it available and intuitive and actionable for all stakeholders as they need it. The example that I'm showing you here actually pertain to COVID and public health data, but very, very similar principles in terms of data use. This was in the United States, and different municipalities all collect up their data on COVID caseloads but everything is very, very, very piecemeal. And so what we were able to do is stitch together all of these different data sources, create a kind of common data model, unified data model, and then present that data back at the national level and highlight the different areas, the different geographies of the country where there were worse COVID outcomes. And then we overlaid that with where vulnerable populations lived so that local leaders, the folks that actually controlled the government spending dollars, could have the information that they needed, the insights that they needed to then deploy those funds to the most vulnerable and underserved communities. So completely different industry, completely different type of case. But the piece that I want to point out here is you have huge pools of structured and unstructured data, and somehow they all need to piece together. And then from that, it's really important to understand who are the folks that will benefit from that data and what insights are they looking for in order to do their job and succeed and help the organization advance. So those are the principles that we try to maintain for all of our data and insights engagements. Another one here that's more around big data optimization is huge amounts of, again, this is like medical claims data, different industry, kind of same principles, but looking at ETL pipelines and again, looking at different forms of data, kind of stitching them all together, and then being able to come up with those insights. In this case, it was for insurance companies and kind of which providers have the best outcomes for their clients, which healthcare systems, versus which perhaps require some intervention. So again, sort of knowing the questions that you want to be asking and your stakeholders helps design kind of the insights from a work back, start at the end and work backwards approach. Know the insights you want, and then sort of do the heavy lifting on the engineering side to empower your teams and your stakeholders. This one is similar, a different industry. This was in defense contracting. I'm going to skip over it. It's a different set of technologies. There's kind of real-time and streaming technology in here as well, but similar themes. One other thing that I'll speak to really quickly, and then we can move to questions, is if you think about your long-term roadmap, and as you're doing your due diligence on new technologies that come up, how do you embrace those technologies? How do you do kind of low stakes and rapid prototyping and test if there's value for the organization? Like the key for disruptive tech is always start with business value. The tech is very cool itself, but ask like what value, like what opportunities exist within the organization, what pain points, and then how might this new technology be applied in a novel and innovative way to address the needs of the organization. So I'll give you one example of that we worked on recently. We worked on a generative AI proof of concept with a global services firm. So this was a firm over 100,000 employees, and in their case, there are lots of kind of publicly available generative AI solutions, as we all know these days. For them, though, data security was paramount. They absolutely could not have any of their data going to non-secure clouds or through something like OpenAI API itself, where potential sensitive data could kind of get out in the world and be used against them. And so what we worked with them on was very rapidly building out a production-ready OpenAI proof of concept, but kind of through Azure Cloud, so everything was secure, where we were also kind of segregating in the cloud their proprietary data from things that were kind of acceptable to process on like the lower cost generative AI systems that are out there and publicly available. And so we focused on kind of security and scalability, getting this technology into the hands of stakeholders in just a handful of weeks, and then building the systems so that they could incorporate user feedback from across the entire organization, and then factor that into constantly iterating on their solutions, not over the course of kind of 6 months or 12 months, but where that feedback actually kind of gets baked in, and they're using that to inform priorities and their agile kind of backlog and roadmap for the next kind of 2 weeks or 4 weeks. So you're getting this very, very rapid iteration cycle. So a little bit more out there from your roadmap and what we've been discussing, but a good example of just sort of being resourceful and sort of starting at the end for what are the business needs, and then trying to figure out how the technology can help you get there. We've done a teeny bit of social impact support as well that I'll speak to. We've worked with our sister organization, Ultranauts, which is comprised of 70% folks on the autism spectrum. The way that their brains work, they are amazing at attention to detail and helping with software quality and data quality. Another one that we've worked with is the Data Nutrition Organization. And so if you think about huge data sets and the perpetuation of AI and the conclusions that everyone's saying, hey, this AI system kind of yielded these insights. This is the very much kind of hang on, let's wait, let's make sure we understand the quality of the data sets that we're going in, any inherent bias that existed in the data sets, and let's have a scorecard right there along with the outputs that says, well, how much do we actually trust these outputs? What's our confidence level? And what are some of the known data issues that we should be factoring into how we interpret the data? I'm going to leave it at that for today, and say thank you very much for everyone's time and attention. And I'd love to open it up to questions.
Thank you, Jonathan. I see your contact details there at the bottom, info@Elephant Ventures, but you're welcome to post your email address as well in the chat tool. Any questions or comments from our audience? Good to read about the case studies and the difference that you're able to make in these companies in their worlds. And yeah, it just opens up the possibilities. Thanks, Jonathan. These Jonathan's details are in the chat box. Okay, so I don't see any comments or hands. That actually then concludes our event for today. Thank you again to all our presenters and for the insights and for the incredible information that you've shared with us. So, as I mentioned in the introduction, the objective of these sessions is to expose our mining colleagues to solution providers such as yourselves, and they either would then contact you directly to engage with you further, or we might engage with you as the industry, as the Mandela Mining Precinct, to talk about possible projects where we could collaborate, or maybe do a proof of concept or whatever. So with that, thank you everyone again, and stay safe, and we'll chat again soon. Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you, everyone.